an honor to be here because this is something that I feel very passionate about. And I feel like a lot of people, like myself, I'm an entrepreneur, so I know what you guys are going through, right? Because I, at one point, decided to start my own business. And luckily for me, I'm a lawyer, so I knew exactly what to do as far as that went. But with all the other stuff, like marketing, social media, and everything, emails and all of that stuff, I had to learn it, and I'm still learning. So I understand your pain when it comes to there being an aspect of your business that you don't get, but not only that, that you don't want to deal with. That you're just like, I'm going to ignore this. So my job, I see my job not only as providing the service to you, but finding a way to make it simple. Because I have somebody who designs my website, and when she tries to tell me anything, I'm like, just go do it. I don't want to hear what you have to do. But I understand that it's important for me to have a great website, okay? So a little bit about my background. I grew up in Northern Virginia, went to college at VCU, went to law school, and after I graduated from law school, I went to work for a really big firm. Actually, not far down the road from here, downtown DC. 300 lawyers in DC, 800 in New York. I worked, as you can imagine, we worked for major corporations, GE and Amazon and every major company you can think about. And I basically did tax planning for those companies. When they wanted to merge or they wanted to restructure, I would figure out a way for them to do that so that they wouldn't have to pay a ton of money in taxes because we screwed something up. So I left there and I went to Discovery Communications, which is the Discovery Channel in Silver Spring. And it was because I wanted to do more international work because I am an immigrant. I migrated from Liberia, West Africa. So I've always just been into international business or immigration and all that stuff. So I thought I wanted to go to Discovery. I went there and I got a lot of experience, like substantive experience, because Discovery has over 400 entities. So when I say an entity, how many of you guys have an LLC for your business? Right. You have how many LLCs? One? Who else? One? Discovery has 400. 400, and 200 of them are international. And so every time Discovery wanted to buy some company, I had to figure out which one of those entities would buy it. So I had to pull out this chart literally this big and say, okay, if we go through here, then we save this much money. If we go through there, we can do this. So this is really complex work that I'm doing. And I'm doing it and I'm in a cubicle and I'm working for this multi-million national company, international company. And I'm just like, this is not what I want to do. You know, I am sitting here cracking my brain, literally feeling brain cells going on in my head, and I'm just helping this company make more money, right? So I'm already feeling kind of shitty about myself because I feel like I'm not really doing anything. And so what a lot of people don't know is that OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, is a joint venture with Discovery. And they basically put up all the money to fund it, and you know, Oprah is Oprah, so she gets what she wants. And so because Discovery is a public company, at the end of every year, each network has to come and give the state of their network. And the person who does that is the CEO of that network. And so we have TLC, we have the Animal Channel, you know, all the Discovery ID, and we have OWN. So all these people come to give the state of their network, but also so does Oprah, right? But then when Oprah comes, she's not just Oprah. So they basically do like a talk show for us. And somebody asked Oprah, like, you know, something about how do you fulfill your purpose? And she gives this talk, and I'm standing there, and I'm just like, this is not my purpose, you know? I know how tough it is for people to start businesses. And I am someone who is a minority, a woman. I knew friends who would try to start businesses and they would come and ask me for help. And so I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, you know? And we're walking back to my office, and my boss is like, so are you gonna quit your job? And I'm like, no. But then 2 months later I was gone. So yeah, so I left. I decided to start my own law firm because I wanted to use my skills to help small businesses. Because I was like, when I was at the law firm downtown DC, my billable rate straight out of law school was like $600 an hour. How many people here can afford that? Not including me. Like, I cannot afford $600 an hour. So when people really wanted quality work, they had to pay $600 an hour, and nobody can afford that when you're starting a business, because a lot of the work I do for businesses is more than 1 hour, right? So we're talking a lot of money. So then all of my friends at the law firm start referring all these people to me. But then I realized these are all people who can afford $600 an hour. So I'm doing the same work I was doing at Discovery, and I'm bringing in the same kind of clientele, but I'm still not helping the youth, you know, the people who can't afford it. But I got bills, let's be honest. I gotta pay my bills, I got all these law school loans. So then I started thinking, I'm like, what can I do to help people who cannot afford to pay this kind of money? And so that's when I came up with my podcast. I don't know if you guys have listened to it. It's called Legal Leads for Entrepreneurs. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start a podcast, and I'm just gonna tell people how to start their businesses. I'm going to just tell them exactly what they need to do, because I can't afford to do it with each person, right? Because I don't have that time. But what I can do is I can come up with these different topics, and I can go through each one, and then you can learn about it. Because the other thing that I tell entrepreneurs, what I realized working with multi-million-dollar corporations is, I was a tax lawyer. I did really complex tax work. But there was someone in that business who was not a tax lawyer, who was just the guy in charge of the deal. But I would explain complex tax issues to that person. And what I realized is that in order for you to be a successful business person, it's great for you to be an amazing photographer. But if you don't understand the business of running a business, you're not going to get anywhere. You know why? Because you're going to lose money. Because you're not going to set up your contracts. You're not going to set up your contracts correctly. You're going to lose money because your clients are going to have you running all over the place without paying you. You know, so I started to think, like, a lot of entrepreneurs push this to the side, because when you're like, oh my God, I want to be a photographer, how amazing is it to go get a camera and take pictures of beautiful people and spend all this time editing? But how are you going to get paid? Who's going to pay you for it? Right? And then what happens if you post your picture on Instagram, and then Getty Images is like, this is a nice picture of Paula, I'm just going to post it. Is that okay? But what do you do? If Getty Images posts your picture, what do? Right? You're just like, damn. You either feel like it's not right, but you don't know what to do. And so what this presentation is about is helping you understand how you can protect your business, not just your pictures. You protect yourself, you limit your liability in dealing with people. Anything you do, you are protecting yourself and your business. The other thing that I help a lot of my clients do is discover how to bring in more revenue into their business, more money. And that's why a lot of people are like, oh, and I tell people all the time, after I meet with a client, one of the things they always say is, oh my God, you saved me so much money. You don't really think about that for a lawyer, right? You're like, damn, this lawyer's about to break the bank, right? So that's because I'm not, like I tell people, I don't help people get out of trouble. I'm not a criminal. That's what a criminal lawyer is for. I'm not a criminal lawyer. I'm a business lawyer. Business lawyers help you make money. And I think a lot of people have this idea that I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even going to contact the lawyer because I just can't afford it. And sometimes that's true, but my goal is to put as much information out there as possible so that you guys can become friendly with lawyers. You guys can become friendly with the idea of at least considering hiring a lawyer. Do you guys have any questions? So I'm a law professor also, a part-time law professor. So I don't like just talking to people, I like to answer questions. Yes. I'm in DC. So I am barred in Maryland. Well, I shouldn't put Maryland first. I was barred in Virginia first. So it's Virginia, DC, and Maryland. So I can draft contracts for any, or work with anybody actually. Any of you can hire me. So when, the way it works with the law, if you're dealing with state law, you can only work in the states where you're barred. But intellectual property law is federal law. So I could hire anybody from any state could hire me to do their trademark or their IP because that's federal law. And for federal law, all you have to do is be barred in only one state, right? So that's why you'll see a lot. And I also do tax. That's also federal, the IRS. I do tax planning for my clients to help them with their tax savings from year to year. And there are a lot of different things that you can do so that you can put yourself in a better position tax-wise, okay? So the first thing I always tell my clients is, think of yourself as a multi-million-dollar business. You have to do it. You know why? Because, and I remember when I was starting my law firm and I went to this lady and I said, oh, what happens if I don't get a client and I don't, you know, she said, you know what, let me tell you, it was a black lady. She said, white guys never feel that way. They never feel like their business is not going to work. They never ask themselves, what happened if I fail? You know? So when you are thinking about yourself as a business, you think about yourself that in 2 or 3 years or 6 months from now, everybody is going to want to work with me. And if everybody wants to work with you, you need a contract. You need to protect your IP. You need to put stuff in place to make sure that you're not putting out any information or saying anything that somebody's going to come back later to sue you for. You also need to make sure you're not infringing on someone's trademark. You're not infringing on their copyright. So what do I mean by all of those things? So usually whenever I work with a client, one of the first things I will say to people is, how did you come up with the name for your business? Right? A lot of people will, and for photography it's a little easier because generally you're kind of naming it after yourself, right? It's like Art Steele Photography. But if you want to choose a different name, and you should always think about your business as 2 or 3 years from now you're going to blow up. What is going to become the value of your business? That name. Everybody's going to be like, oh, Janella, I know her. That is the photographer to hire. If her name is on something, I know it's worth it. Now your name has a value outside of you. So is it okay, and I'm picking on Getty Images today, is it okay for Getty Images to just take that name and use it? No, because you built it up, right? So how do you protect that? You protect that by applying for a trademark. And I know you guys probably hear a lot about trademarking, but at some point, and a lot of people say, when do I do this? Should I wait until I am, you know, a big company? No, because if the way trademark works is you have to file an application with the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office. The first person who files the application gets the name. Have you guys heard of eyebrows on fleek? Anybody heard of eyebrows on fleek? Eyebrows on fleek? So supposedly this lady, I don't know the whole story, that this lady comes up with this term, eyebrows on fleek, and it takes off all over the internet. Does she own the trademark to it? How many people want to guess? No, why not? No, someone else went and trademarked her name.
Pause for 1 second.
Oh, they have to change the tape. I feel like I'm screaming at you guys. Okay. I feel crazy.
I got a night Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the bottom.
She might have to take it off.
I want to call it plug.
It's called She Owns That Name. No. And you know, not because she can't trademark it, but because the minute she put that out there, someone went, a white woman who has a lawyer, went and trademarked it and started providing services under that name. So nobody's gonna go to this white woman thinking she's eyebrows on fleek. The point is, this woman who created the term now cannot use it. She absolutely cannot use that name unless she pays this woman, right? So the thing that you guys always have to remember, what is the impact of what I am doing? Like, I know it's tough when you're thinking about paying bills, booking a client, but you always have to think, the minute I say this, it's gonna blow up. And you have to protect your IP. So whoever files first is the person who gets the trademark. That's the first thing. Now, as far as copyright goes, I get so many, like my friends or people on Instagram will tag me because artists on Instagram will be constantly talking about somebody using their photo. Happens all the time. And two things. So if Essence posts your photo, you're probably happy, right? That Essence is sharing your photo because you're gonna get a whole bunch of likes, right? But does Essence really have the right to post your photo? No, right? And Essence is making money. But you probably think like, oh, okay, it's Essence, it's okay. And maybe it's fine if Essence does it. But you know what happens? What I always tell people, are Steele looking at this photo? And Essence says photography by Anthony. And Art Steele says, oh, okay, well, Essence is posting it. I'm gonna post it too. Well, I don't know if Essence is paying Anthony for his photo. I don't know any of that. So if I then post his photo and I get any money, if I'm advertising on Instagram for any amount of time that I post his photo, he could sue me and I would have to pay him. Right? So let me ask you guys, how many of you have sold a photo, just the photo itself, not through a service, but a photo? No one? Okay. So what if I told you that someone would pay you $10,000 for your photo? Would you sell it to them? Yes. Right? How many people here would sell it? Would you sell your photo for $10,000? Well, guess what? If you copyright your photo, register your copyright of your photo with the U.S. Copyright Office, you can get up to $150,000 for your photo. Right? But that's not, let me tell you a story. And it's on the podcast. There's this lady who buys a photo from a stock image company. Actually, she didn't buy the photo. It was free. You know, they have tons of free photos, stock images, whatever. So she downloads this photo, puts it on her the cover page of her Facebook group, okay? But you know, when you upload stuff to Facebook, it cuts stuff off, right? Sometimes it cuts off, it zooms the picture in or out or whatever. So she posts this photo on there. I think about a year and a half after she had been having this photo on her the cover of her Facebook page. She's a therapist, okay? And she's in Asheville, North Carolina, and she just wanted a pretty picture of Asheville, North Carolina. She went to Google, Asheville, North Carolina, beautiful picture pops up. She puts it on her Facebook page. A year and a half later, this guy emails her and says, "You're using my photo. Where did you get it?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was your photo. I got it from a free stock photo website. I'll take it down." He says, "Thank you." She takes it down. The next thing she knows, she gets a letter from his lawyer. "You owe my client $30,000 for using this photo." Because he has a federally registered copyright. You know what he was doing? He was putting his photos on the internet. Then he would use a web crawler software to find who had been posting his photos. And when he found those people, he would contact them and say, "You're using my photo," so that the person can acknowledge they were using it. And then when they took it down, then he would send them the letter. This was his business model. So just think about this. And you will hear a lot of stuff on the internet that will say, "Oh, the minute you put the C, the copyright symbol is protected." But you don't get the protection of the $150,000 statutory amount. What you would have to do is prove, how much damages you actually sustained from that person using that photo. How are you going to prove that? It probably would have been sitting on your hard drive, right? But when you register it federally, all you have to show is, one, I own this picture, and two, you earned money while you were using it. I don't care that you earned money from a photo. You got money somewhere. Go get it. And guess what? Right? So then you're thinking, if somebody does this, you're probably thinking you have to hire a lawyer, right? Damn, now you got to pay the lawyer. Guess what? In the statute, lawyer fees are allotted to the lawyer as well. So this is when people contact me and they say, oh, how much would you charge? I think somebody's using my photo. And I tell them, well, it's going to be X amount. And they're like, oh, well, I can afford it. I said, don't worry. The copyright statute got you. They're gonna come up with the money. And so a lot of magazines, I've had people contact me. We have online magazines that are using people's photos. We have Instagram accounts that are using people's photos, Facebook groups, because I think that when you go to somebody's blog and you see their written content, right? It's like, hi, my name is Steele, I'm a lawyer. This is how you fix your business. You know it's wrong for you to just Control A and take that content and just paste it on your blog. People do it all the time, but you know it's wrong, right? You know you're doing something wrong. But a lot of people don't feel like anything is wrong with taking someone's photo. They feel like it's just a photo. What's the big deal? And because people have that mentality, they have no qualms whatsoever about reposting someone else's photo exactly the way that it was. But when you guys take a photo, do you just slap that photo up? What do you do to the photo? What's Carrie talking about right now? Yeah, right? And how long does that take? Just a couple of minutes, right? Many hours. So you should, why should you just give your stuff away for free? Right? What's your question?
How long or short is the process to copyright a photo if you do it at home?
Yes. So that's one of the biggest questions that I get is, you can go to uscopyright.gov. uscopyright.gov. How much do you think it is to copyright a photo? Just guess. What do you think it would be? Just guess. Huh?
200.
Huh?
I think it's less than that.
How much? Just say $35. $35 for one photo. And if you do it in a collection, $55. Yes. Right? Not 100,000. I don't know. So, okay, well, one quick. Yeah.
How many can be in the collection?
So that depends on what you call a collection. Right? So the collection obviously has to be related. So let's say you came to this program today. This could be a collection, right? So the thing that I tell photographers is, you're not going to copyright every single photo. It's impossible. So what I do tell photographers is, create a system. You guys are probably going to hear a lot about systems today. Create a system for your workflow. Okay, I'm going to go to this program. I'm going to take pictures. Which pictures am I going to post on Instagram? Which pictures am I going to keep on my hard drive? Which pictures am I going to give to my clients, right? And how am I going to use those photographs? So if you know from Black Girl with a Camera or the Mint Conference, you want to post these pictures, that could be a collection. So by the time you're actually done, you're probably not going to be releasing 100 or 200 photos. Probably going to find 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever, right? That can be your collection. And you can submit that to the U.S. Copyright Office, and you can copyright it. Now it's going to take months for you to get your certificate, but it's backdated to the time that you submitted it. And guess what? You can do this online, and you can upload the photos from your desktop. So the next time somebody uses your copyright, you're just like, and this is what I tell my clients. You just send it them and say, hey, this is my photo, you're using it. Don't say anything about anything else. Get them to admit that they're using your photo. And say, oh, I'm sorry, didn't know it was your photo, I'll take it down. Then you send your cease and desist. But actually, the first thing I say is, the minute you see your photo, take a screenshot. The minute you see your photo somewhere, even if Essence is doing it and you're fine with Essence doing it, take a screenshot. Essence doesn't have the right to use your photo because they're Essence. Sorry Essence, but you don't. But you know what I mean? Or anybody else. Not because they're gonna give you publicity means that they have the right. That is your artwork. That's your intellectual property. Now here's another reason. Go ahead. Uh-huh.
I take pictures and I allow somebody to use my picture. However, it has been copyrighted. And then they have it with the Black Girl Travel Movement, so with the Black Girls Trip Movement, it's been used in
You lost some money.
seriously.
So here's the way the copyright works. You have to register the copyright within 3 months of publication. And publication would be whenever you released it to the public. Meaning, they can't tell on your hard drive that you took that picture, right? Because you haven't technically published it. No, yeah. No, what I'm saying, because you haven't technically published it, right? You haven't put it in anywhere in the public. So once you publish it, meaning either you send it to someone or you post it on Facebook or Instagram, that's what's really going to count as your publication date. And then you have 3 months within which to file the registration. Okay? So now what you could have done, now let's just say, again, there are 2 ways to protect your copyright, and this is why I tell people learning about contracts are so important, because a contract is just not, you know, Anthony is going to take my photo shoot, come with me to take my photo shoot at the Mint conference. That's just a photo event contract. We IP lawyers a lot of times deal with what's called a licensing agreement. Have you guys heard of that? A licensing agreement basically is giving someone the ability to use your photo. You can decide how they can use that photo though. So with your friend, you could have said, I'm gonna give you a licensing agreement and only you can use this photo. But the minute she passed it on to someone else, you could either sue her, or if she passed it on to someone else, you could sue them and then they would come back and sue her. But what I always tell people is you sue the person who got the deep pockets and then let them sue the other person who put them in trouble in the first place, right? So no matter who you're giving your photography, your photograph to, have them sign an agreement. When my friends come to me to ask me for legal advice, even if I'm not going to charge them, by ethical guidelines, I have to give them a letter, an engagement letter. And that engagement letter will say that what I am doing is free. Because I don't want to charge them my friend, I'm not going to charge them. But I can't just give them legal advice. Because if they go do something and say, well, my lawyer, Art's my lawyer, now I need you to represent me, I need you to go help me, you know, and I can't say, I'm sorry, I can't do that, because the bar that I have to follow their rules. They're gonna come back to me and say, well, why didn't you sign an agreement? I don't care that this is your friend. Business is business, right? So your friend is probably really proud that she got your photo on who at Black Girl Travel Network.
She asked me and I told her however, because she's going up with my Black Girl Trip, she asked me, is it copyrighted or do I have a watermark? And I said no, and I don't.
Well, so there are 2 ways that you can protect your IP. You can do it by registering it. That's the best way. But then you can also do it in a licensing agreement. So if you didn't have a licensing agreement, all you're showing is that you own that copyright. When you put the symbol, all you're showing is that you own the copyright. But in order to sue somebody for using that copyright, you now have to go to court and show they violated some contract. Which contract are you going to show them if you don't have one? Do you understand what I'm saying? So the 2 contracts that every photographer needs is your event or your photo shoot contract, but you also need to have either in those contracts or any other contract a licensing agreement. So if you, okay, so let's say I hire Paula to take pictures of me at the Black Girl or whatever. So she comes, she takes the picture. Who owns the picture? I pay her $500 to take these pictures. Who owns it? Who owns the copyright? I just paid her $500. So wait, is she gonna? I didn't pay her to just take pictures. I want the pictures.
You can get copies of the pictures, but she's still taking.
Okay, so but then what do I do with the copy? Am I allowed to share with my friends? I can't sell it. I paid $500. I can't sell your pictures. Okay, so can you point me to the place in your contract that says that? No, wait. Do you have a point?
Specified whether how you can reuse the picture.
Exactly. That's all I'm trying to say, right? Because I'd be like, Paula, I don't see anything in here. All this says is I'm paying you $500. You're gonna give me these pictures. You didn't say I can't sell them. You didn't say I can't use it on my Instagram. And also, Paula, why are you using my pictures? I paid you for it. This contract says I own the photos. So what you can do to answer your question is you can put licensing language in your service contract, right? So Paula would say there are a few ways that you can do this. So Paula would say, I, Paula, own these photos until you pay me. That's the first thing. So when I send you the proofs, you can't use them, period. You can't even post them anywhere because you don't own them until you pay me. When you pay me, Paula can do two things when I pay her. She can sell the copyright to me, right? And when she sells the copyright to me, I now own it and I can do whatever I want. I can sell it, I can do what, I can destroy it, I can exploit it, I can have somebody turn it into an avatar, whatever I want to do with it, right? But what if Paula wants to show that she took pictures of me? She just sold me the copyright. I own it. So what does Paula have to do? In her contract, Paula has to retain a license to use that photo. Right? Uh-huh. Right. So what he should have done is contested, right? So the first thing that PayPal is going to do when someone says, I didn't get the money, what PayPal should do is not give them the money. They should hold it. They don't. And then he has to produce the contract.
Right, he produced the contract, everything. PayPal said, we're going to steal this guy. Like, you're not protected in actual business. This is something we learned because photography, it was like a kind of law with PayPal that basically said that your digital is not protected. So products and services were, but digital were not. So it's two-sided. And he gave them all the paperwork, showed everything.
So what he, unfortunately, if his contract is a good contract, and he's a photographer, right? He hopefully wrote the contract, right? Where does your friend live? Where does the client live? Right. So hopefully in your friend's contract, he has a clause that says if there is any dispute, right, we will decide what happens in North Carolina, and he should file suit against his client in North Carolina.
And that was the clause that he didn't have. So basically, he couldn't represent
the lawyer who drew up the contract? Oh, so how did he get the contract? The friend, the photographer. How many years of law school did he go to? And the reason I bring that up is not to be snotty, but a lot of people feel like, why can't I just pull a contract off of Google? Why can't I just use Anthony's contract? He's a photographer, I'm a photographer. I'm sure it's good.
There are a lot of templates out there that people use.
There's so many templates out there, and I read them. And sometimes a lot of people who have courses, I'll sign up for a course, and because I can't help it, I will read the terms and conditions. And I know this person lives in X city because I follow them on Instagram, blah, blah. And it's like, if anything happens, this is going to be litigated in New York. I'm like, fine, New York is a bus ride for me. You live in Texas. Why is your contract being litigated in New York? Because people never look at that stuff. They probably got a template from Teachable that uses New York, and Teachable has its own reasons for using New York. They don't care where they are. They have their own reasons for using New York because they're a freaking major corporation, right? But you don't need to use New York. You can change that to DC or Virginia or North Carolina, Indiana, right? So that's number one. But the other thing I also tell my clients when they come to me, this is the first thing I tell my clients before they drop money for me to draft the contract, which I'm excited for them to do, but I always tell them, and you can tweet this, a contract is only worth the amount of money you're willing to pay to defend it. You can have a $50,000 contract. If you can't even hire a lawyer to go to court to defend it, what good is that contract? Your contract is only worth, somebody can break your contract. Okay, I have breach contracts all day, and I'm like, so me. Because I can show up to court if you want me to, and I can find a way to get out of this contract, but you're going to have to hire a lawyer. And that is going to be more money than what I owe you on the contract, so let it go. So that's what I tell people. Before you enter into a contract, ask yourself, how much am I willing to pay to defend this contract in court? Now, not to get too personal, but what's your average charge for a photo shoot? $500? More? $800, $900?
Or so video.
Okay, video, how much?
Maybe regular event could be grand.
Okay, you said $1,200? Okay, $1,200. So, how much do you think it's gonna cost for you to go to, are you in DC?
No, I'm like Connecticut, New York area.
Oh, how much do you think it's gonna cost to hire a lawyer to take somebody to court?
I mean, you said $600 an hour.
Right, or even $350, right? After you've done all the work, then you have to put the money. So what I always tell people is you need to build into your system getting some of that money up front. People think, oh, lawyers only ask for their money up front. You should too. And I always tell people, I'm not gonna pay full price for anything. If I'm hiring a photographer, I'm not paying you the full price, because that's ridiculous. You can run away with my money. But at the same time, you're gonna actually show up to this event. I have to pay you something, right? So I tell my clients to collect a certain portion of the money up front. And if somebody doesn't want to pay you at least half, don't work with them. Don't, unless you're willing to do that that job for free, right? So if it's a job, you pay half up front. Before I gave you, okay, and then I showed up to your wedding, I took the pictures, I did the video. Before I give you proof, pay me another half of the balance. So then now, instead of $6,000, all we're talking about is $1,000 or $1,500, and you're not out all of your money. So build systems into your business that protect you, because I can charge you $1,500 to write a contract, but when you come back to me and want me to help you enforce that, and I have to go to court and sue somebody, I'm going to charge you again, because that's more time. So what I always say is get as much money as you can up front, and then make sure you have a good contract. Because if he had a good contract, it would say stuff like, regardless of what PayPal says, you're gonna pay me my money if I pay you X. You owe me this money, and you cannot use these proofs. But then what if he uses the proofs? What do you do? Right? If your contract says he can't use it and he's violating your IP, your copyright that you own, you can take him to court. right? Because it says it right there in the contract. So, okay, so you guys have to always make sure that you are not only thinking about what's in writing, but just think about the way people do things in real life, right? I mean, would you work for somebody without having them pay you, or would you pay everything ahead? I always say it's better if we pay 50-50 because I got skin in the game, you got skin in the game, right? Right? So that's the other thing. And then, so that's for the licensing in a contract. But the other way that you can use your IP is by licensing your work, right? What if I'm like, you know, I don't know Anthony, I don't know Paula, but this picture looks nice. I want to use it on my Instagram page. Can I buy it? Right? Can I use your photo? And how much are you going to charge me? You've already taken it, so it's not like you have to go. Let's say you were just out and about and you took a picture of the Capitol, and I want to use it. How much are you going to charge me for it? Right? But that's stock photo, and that's basically stock photo images. So one of the things I always tell people is the reason you want to have that copyright is the actual registration. It's because a lot of times when big brands come to you, right, because that's everybody's dream, they got the money. Whenever they come to you and they want to license, they are like, oh, I saw this photo that you took, I want to use it for our whatever fall season in Nordstrom's. You're like, yes, finally. And then they're like, show me your copyright. And then you're like, what is that? Right? Because here's the thing. Nordstrom's legal department is saying you better know you have the copyright before you use somebody's photo. Because what if you go and put somebody's photo up and somebody comes and they're like, wait, that's my photo. Right? So the best way that they can prove that it's actually your photo is for them to have that licensing agreement, or I'm sorry, that copyright registration showing that you own it. Because in that way, they feel safer, right? Because that person's not gonna come sue you. They're gonna go sue you and Nordstrom. And guess who's gonna pay? Nordstrom, right? So they wanna protect themselves. And on top of that, they're gonna be like, what kind of person is this taking pictures and they don't have a copyright? How serious are you, you know? And if they put a contract in front of you, do you know what that contract says? What kind of license are you giving them? Can they excel it? Can they exploit it? Can they use it in their campaigns forever? And if they want to use it forever, let them pay a little bit more. You know what I mean? So these are all things that as creatives, as you create, everything you create, everything that's in your mind, you own. It doesn't matter if you don't sell it. You still own it. Protect it. Protect it by registering your trademark, and protect it by registering your copyright. And absolutely protect it by putting as much in place in your contracts.